Hey guys, it's Al, and we're reading Swan Lake by Peter Clover. At last, here he comes, said the queen, late as usual, even for his own birthday party. Young Prince Siegfried leapt off his horse and bounded up to the palace steps 3 at a time. Royal families from across 4 kingdoms had gathered at the palace for the prince's party. Many had brought along their daughters, hoping to impress the young prince. Everyone knew the queen was looking for a suitable princess to marry her only son and heir. Everyone watched as the queen presented Prince Siegfried with his birthday present. It was a magnificent silver crossbow with a prancing stag carved into the handle. Prince Siegfried was excellent with a bow. He smiled politely and swung the bow across his shoulder. The queen clapped her hands and an orchestra started playing. The young prince mingled with the guests and forced himself to dance with all the blushing princesses. Some princesses were of very possible shape you can imagine. Some were tall, some were small. One even had a mustache. Prince Siegfried wasn't happy. He didn't want to get married, let alone choose a bride from among his birthday crowd. When he fell in love, the prince wanted it to be with someone he had chosen for himself. As darkness fell and fireworks lit up the sky, Prince Siegfried sneaked away to be on his own. The prince wandered away from the royal palace and found himself in an enchanted forest. The prince walked for a while before stumbling upon an unfamiliar clearing that opened onto a beautiful lake he had never seen. Prince Siegfried sat down on the water's edge. Gentle waves lapped the shoreline as a fleet of white swans came gliding across the moonlit lake. The prince noticed that one of the swans wore a golden crown. He raised his crossbow, but something about the swan made his heart jump in his chest. It was the loveliest creature he had ever seen. The swan with the golden crown was slowly changing into a beautiful girl. Her white feathers faded into a shimmering ball gown. Prince Siegfried thought he was dreaming as the radiant princess stepped out of the lake to meet him. The young prince immediately fell in love with her. The swan princess told him that her name was Odette, and that she had been bewitched by a wicked sorcerer. All the swans were under the same spell, and Swan Lake was filled with tears from all the parents who mourned for their lost daughters. When dawn came, the first rays of sunlight touched the water. Odette turned back into a white swan and returned to the cold waters of Swan Lake. Prince Siegfried had promised to meet with Odette the following night, believed that his newfound love was a secret, but Baron von Wolfbart had followed the prince to the shore of the hidden lake. The evil baron was the sorcerer who had turned Princess Odette and her maidens into swans. The Baron was afraid that Princess Odette might have found true love. Such a love could break his wicked spell over Odette. If Prince Siegfried ever declared his love for her, then Odette would be free and become a princess once more. That must never happen, whispered Baron. The following evening was the night of the grand ball, where the queen expected Prince Siegfried to dance with and choose a future bride. While the music played, all the prince would think about was going back to Swan Lake to be with Odette. But Baron von Rothbard wanted his own daughter, Odile, to marry the prince. While Prince Siegfried was distracted, the Baron slipped a potion into the prince's drink. The potion would make the prince believe that Odile was his true love. Prince Siegfried could hardly believe his eyes when he saw his beautiful swan princess gliding down the grand staircase. Of course, it was really Odile, but because of the magic potion, the prince only saw Odette. The Prince Siegfried asked Odile to dance, and the young couple moved around the dance floor. The queen believed her son had chosen his future bride. Such a pretty girl, a princess who moves with grace and charm, the perfect choice. The prince and princess danced once, twice, 3 times, and more, and the Baron watched, pleased. Though Odile looked exactly like Odette, spoke like Odette, and moved like Odette, Prince Siegfried felt that there was something wrong. He didn't feel the same magic in his heart as when he held the Swan Princess in his arms. Something was different, but Siegfried didn't know that. The prince looked into Odile's eyes and saw that they were black. Odette's eyes were blue. Despite this, Prince Siegfried heard himself declare his love and ask Odile to marry him. Everyone cheered as the queen gave her royal blessing. It was only when Prince Siegfried glanced towards the window that he realized he had made a terrible mistake. The prince saw Odette on the balcony, peering through the glass into the ballroom. Their eyes met, and the prince's heart almost leapt out of his chest. The prince raced outside, but Odette had gone. All Siegfried could hear was his pounding heart and the sound of soft beating wings overheard in the starry sky. Prince Siegfried ran faster than he had ever run in his life. Only once did he glance back on his way to Swan Lake. When he did, he saw 2 dark and dangerous shapes following him. They were almost flying like giant birds. It was the sorcerer, Baron von Rothbard, and his evil daughter, Odile. As the prince neared Swan Lake, he heard Princess Odette gliding across the water. Odette, Odette, called Prince Siegfried. Wait! The Swan Princess turned her graceful neck towards him. The golden crown on her head glimmered in the moonlight. Prince Siegfried thought he saw tears falling from the swan's eyes, and his heart broke in two. It's no use, cried the evil Baron. You cannot win. Your promise to me, screamed Odile. But all Siegfried wanted was Odette, his beautiful swan princess. Odette, I love you, the prince cried across the lake, and for one moment the whole world stood still. All Siegfried could see was Odette. He didn't notice the other swans turning back into maidens as the spell crumbled away, or the baron and his daughter melting into black smoke. As Prince Siegfried embraced Odette in the deep water of the Swan Lake, he knew that they would always be together.